The concept of ohana in this greeting, as many of you may know, derives from the Hawaiian language. The root word of ohana is oha, and oha comes from the taro plant, which was a fixture of life in old Hawaii. Today, the term ohana means family, and extended family, and intentional family, which is the term we use for close friends. We use that term for each of you. Each of you fits into one of these categories. You're all ohana, and you're all welcome here. We sincerely hope that among the blessings of the day, you will spend time and renew connections with other members of the ohana, the group that will support and love Shanti and Dylan and Stu and Sally for the rest of their days. The sharing place is supported by donations, and if you are moved to make a contribution in the memory of Jai, they would be most appreciative of your gift. The Breisch family would like to acknowledge the sharing place for hosting all of us today, and also for their grief support of the family over the years. With regard to COVID, we trust you to make decisions in your own and your family's best interest. We do not want this celebration to become another super spreader event. We have about 45 minutes for the ceremony, and the schedule will run something like this. After my opening comments, Stu will offer the eulogy, and we will then invite others here to offer their thoughts if they feel so moved. We may have to watch our timing if things go on too long, but in that event, please know that we treasure your contributions to our collective memories of Jai, and we will have an opportunity to address the group again at about 3 p.m. We will have a song that Jai wrote for Kali called Slowly Fading Away, with audio and video of him singing. We will then, as we come to the end of contributions from you, pass Prosecco and have a toast in Jai's honor. We will then hear a song that Jai wrote for his mother. After a moment of silence to honor his memory, we'll have a benediction and conclude this portion of the gathering. From 2 to 5, there'll be sort of an open house where we'll be joined by others who will want to celebrate Jai and his life. We'll have food and beverages and Jai's music played throughout, and photos have been placed around, which you may have seen already, so that he can, in some sense, be here with us. In terms of coming to grips with the enormity of Jai's passing, there are many thoughts to share. If anything that you hear resonates with you, I would say accept it as a blessing and take it along with you. And if something does not feel quite right, I would say leave it at the roadside and don't give it another thought. In the end, I think all of us will be seeking closure, to accept the finality of what has happened and then to move on. The philosophical approach to that is complex, and there are no simple answers. I want to start with an anonymous poem called Why? Why, that's what we ask. The truth is, we may never be able to know for sure why. But we do know that there is no single should have done, or could have done, or did or didn't do that would have changed that why. All that love could have done was done. I also want to offer you a short quote from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who was one of the pioneering researchers in the field of death and dying and grieving. She says, the reality is that you will grieve forever. You will not get over the loss of a loved one. You will learn to live with it. You will heal. You will rebuild yourself around the loss that you have suffered. You will be whole again, but you will never be the same. Nor should you be the same, nor should you want to. And then with a deep breath, I would add, we must move on from the here and now to the next moment and the next. Each now intact and whole and complete in itself. I first encountered that teaching in Guru Mai's ashram in Ganeshpuri. Live in the present. Live in the eternal now. The past is gone and will never return. The future is a mystery that will unfold in the fullness of time. Our task is to grab the now, to cradle it, love it, and celebrate it. There will be some inevitable carrying of the past with us as we move through time, and that will involve mourning and grieving. Our task is to integrate that into our process, our movement, our continuing transition from one eternal now to the next. In the midst of it all, the challenge is to stay centered and stay balanced. Offer an outpouring of love and kindness and compassion, and to remember gratitude, to give thanks for all the good things that are part of our lives. We are now going to listen to a song that Jay wrote for his sister Kali, called Slowly Fading Away.
Good morning, beautiful, I said to a girl. I hope my lonesome words can change your world. You can try, but you'll never save me. My love is fading and my heart is empty. You should shower in the dark so you can feel your heart and all you are as it drips down the drain. As each drip falls, comes an echo against the wall, a reminder to us all how we're slowly melting away. So pour yourself another glass and rewrite the past for now as it's slowly fading away. If I'm still around, 'cause I'm slowly fading away. Yes, I'm slowly fading away, yeah. Should I run it by you before I try to tell you? I know I'm leaving someday, but where will I go when I leave you waiting, anticipating when I'll return to see you again? After I've sealed all my deals and unlocked my heart, I'll return to this place for a new start. I can't say if I'll see you again, I can't tell. All I know is that my love is dry and I've got to find a well before I pour myself another glass and I rewrite the past for now as it's slowly fading away. Yes, I'm slowly fading away, yeah. Good morning, beautiful. My love is dry and I've got to find a well. My love is dry and I've got to find a well. My love is dry and I've got to find a well. My love is dry and I've got to find a well before I pour myself another glass and I rewrite the past for now as it's slowly fading away. Yes, I'm slowly fading away. Please come by every now and then to see if I'm still around, 'cause I'm slowly fading away. Yes, I'm slowly fading away, yeah. is dry and I've got to find a well.
Stu is now going to catch his breath and step forward to give the eulogy.
If we were afraid Jay wasn't going to show up today, I think he just showed up. So I want to thank you all for being with us today. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for the love and support that you all have given me and my family over the years. I find it really hard to believe that I'm up here again, yet again. This time to celebrate the life of my beloved son and my and our dear friend, JaiRam Glynn Breisch. It's almost inconceivable to me in this moment, I got some, thank you, that Jay won't be getting here late, probably right around now, with his loud car echoing down the street announcing his imminent arrival. And then he's followed by his big grin entrance, his bull terrier dogs, and his awesome hugs. It seems like almost everyone who knew Jay loved Jay. He could walk up to a complete stranger and in 5 minutes they'd be laughing and sharing like old friends. He genuinely liked almost everyone he met. I don't know how he did it. He loved me fully and unconditionally like no one else I've known in my 70-year life. It's not easy to describe someone as complex as Jay. On the surface, Jay almost always appeared upbeat and optimistic and genuinely happy. He liked to tell jokes and stories. He was a trickster. He loved to surprise others with thoughtful gifts or a witty, what I call a Jayism, which is my term for his lighthearted, pun-like plays on words that oftentimes went right over my head. You probably experienced some of that with Jay. So for many of us here today, it makes absolutely no sense that he would choose to take his own life. Sally and I will do our best to honor Jay, and we'll also try to address the elephant in the room, suicide, that no one likes to talk about. We will try to help us all understand and accept Jay's choice. When I realized Jay had actually ended his own life, my initial reaction was anger, and then followed by profound sadness. It is clear to me now, in just a week or so, that our sadness and anger and bewilderment does not serve us or Jay. Over many years, Jay again and again asked me to try and see the world from his shoes, from his perspective. I have tried very hard to do just that. It is my intent to share my experience of Jay's life with glimpses of Jay's worldview from his shoes. My goal is for us all to better understand his thought process so that we can release our feelings of grief and anger and betrayal. Hopefully we'll be able to find compassion for Jay and send him from this world wrapped in love and light, unfettered by our sadness and loss. If we look at his situation from Jay's perspective, perhaps it is easier to accept his choice. Most of you here today know that Jay's mother, Karen Glynn, died of cancer when he was 4 years old. After several shaky years, he got his feet back under him, and his life started unfolding very nicely. From early in his childhood, Jay has always had very big expectations for his own future. As a 10-year-old, when he excelled at Skyline Little League football with me as one of his coaches, as a 10-year-old, he promised me he'd buy me a Corvette after he became a world-famous pro football player. After a few years, he moved on from football and he built a full-size half pipe in a racquetball court under the garage at our home. It was humongous. He was certain then that he was going to become a Tony Hawk-style professional skateboarder. He was good at almost anything he tried, including skating. He built that huge half pipe with deck screws. So a few years later, when he just changed his mind and decided to be a rock and roll star, he unscrewed the half pipe boards and reused the materials, and the screws, by the way, to build a stage for his new Under the Garage band. They played in the racquetball court under the garage. Garage band, right? The band gave wonderful free concerts there, much to the delight of his schoolmate fans. Jay worked very hard to develop his natural music talents with the help of many skilled mentors. Many of you are here today. He appeared to be on the way to achieve his dream of rock and roll stardom. He wrote hundreds of heartfelt song lyrics like the one you just heard, and catchy riffs and chords to accompany his poetry. If you ever read or closely listened to the words of his songs, or looked into his eyes when he sang, you had a direct experience of Jay's immense open heart. He was a dreamer, and he was living his dream and thriving at that time with hard-earned confidence in himself and his future. He worked very hard. So with that as a foundation, at age 16, Jay was dealt a series of unimaginable life challenges. Most of you know he was nearly paralyzed as a passenger in a frightening car accident. Imagine for a moment rolling over and over down a steep football field length bank. It was about an angle about like that. I could hardly walk up and down the bank. Football field length, and landing upside down in a creek. His shattered neck was surgically fused, and he was left with limited flexion and extension, so he couldn't bend his neck very well. Not a good thing for a guitar player. He had chronic severe neck pain and some voice changes and some finger numbness that impaired his guitar playing. Despite this, he seemed to be getting his life back on track. But then, 2.5 months after the neck surgery, our family tried to escape the heaviness of his car trauma, and we all traveled to Thailand for a Christmas vacation. Jay's younger sister and best friend Kali was killed in the Indian Ocean tsunami. Jay was swept inland over a mile by the huge wave, underwater most of the time, struggling to get his head above the surface through the debris floating above him so he could get air. He said he was underwater more than half of the time he was riding the wave. I was in a dive boat when the waves hit, and I was there. I saw the aftermath. I can't imagine what he experienced riding that wave for that long. If I'd been on that beach, I have no doubt I would not be here today. Very few people on that beach survived that day. Jay told me once that he heard a voice in his head while he was underwater telling him, "It's not your time, Jay. Don't give up." He was a survivor. After this, more surgeries, more loss, and more physical and emotional pain. Life was a roller coaster ride for Jay after the tsunami. He didn't sit back and complain like many of us would after such trauma. He worked hard and he got himself University of Utah College degrees in jazz performance and in jazz composition. As we sorted through his belongings this week, I was amazed at the depth of the coursework and the classical and jazz compositions that he mastered to earn those degrees. He was a prolific and skilled composer of all kinds of music and lyrics. He was one of the most intelligent and creative people I have ever known. For his senior project, he rearranged a 4-piece Haydn string quartet so that it could be played by a full wind ensemble with 20 different instruments. That's like writing a symphony, as he had to write a different score for each of the instruments that complemented and harmonized with the others. I was so proud of him when I heard it performed. He was so talented in so many ways, and this was just one of the multitudes of times I was blown away as I watched him grow and as I recognized his incredible talents. Jay struggled with physical pain and difficulty concentrating, and he realized that he had no choice but to give up his rock and roll dream and find another path. His whole world collapsed. His music degrees did not open doors for a future musical career as he had hoped, and his subsequent unsuccessful attempts to find a career path left him feeling worthless and hopelessly trapped. He desperately wanted a career, but he absolutely hated being a student, the structure of being a student again. He started a successful handyman business that he called J Breisch Fixin' It. And he absolutely loved creating innovative solutions that exceeded his clients' expectations. But being a handyman, no matter how much he enjoyed it, simply did not meet his vision for himself, that he should have what he called a real job. At his core, he remained profoundly unhappy. But he loved figuring out how things worked and designing better ways of doing just about anything. He loved using recycled, or what he called free or clearance materials at Home Depot to minimize the cost of his creations. He reused anything. He had difficulty trashing things that he envisioned for so many potential future uses. We experienced that this week in his condo. Jay appeared happy while in the moment with his projects and his tools and with his detailed sketches of what he was trying to create. This is one of the many ways that he hid his inner turmoil, so we all were fooled into thinking that he was doing well. In reality, his failure to achieve what he considered a meaningful life left him feeling like he had no hope for a desirable future, no matter how much we all loved and appreciated him. In one of his more recent texts to me, he asked me, and I quote, "Dad, tell me a bedtime story about me and a happy life in the future with a career and a life and a person to love. I can't imagine one, and I have an amazing imagination." Most of us here have experienced Jay telling anyone who would listen about his life story with its incredible challenges. He decided that, in his own words, life was unfairly and intentionally picking on him, like a child frying ants with a magnifying glass, is what he said. He felt victimized and trapped, and he cried out for what he called a reset. Jay's unremitting feelings of pain and despair overcame his deep love of music and of the people in his life, most of you here. And he consciously chose when and how to end his life. In his many detailed and very articulate and rational writings about life, he described his life as already ruined and his future as non-existent in this plane of existence, again in his words. Jay embodied the immense loss of his sister at a soul level, and he wrote, and I quote, "I'm so sorry, Kali. I know I promised you to live one life for two, But what it's turned out to be is that I'm only living half a life. If I could excise that wound, I have no doubt I would make it. But in this shell of a life, with people I give my all to, I am left living a life of doom. Many of you know that as the tsunami hit, Kali heard and saw the towering wave first and woke Jay up screaming, Jay, we have to get out of here. Jay was sleeping closer to the door, and he was swept out of the bungalow by the water as Kali was crushed when the bungalow collapsed before she could get out. Jay tried to swim against the current to help her, and he never forgave himself for not being able to save her life. In another writing, he stated, "None of my actions are against anyone but me." He's referring to suicide now. "None of my actions are against anyone but me, as those that I love have just made my life worth living." He's talking about you all. "I never thought I would see the day when this life of mine would not be a thing. I won't and don't, nor will I ever understand, but it seems like this is destiny. Maybe in my next life I can have one that is fair. I don't have much hope and I have to fold." And then he went on, "It's a weak man's way out. But I'll ask you first, do you truly believe you could survive what this one literal child did? I think you'd be surprised if your eyes became mine." He loved and was considerate of his family and me to the end. His last text to me, "Never blame yourself, Dad, ever, or I will come back and haunt you. This is the fault of life and why it felt the need to hurt me again and again. I am so sorry, but this is my reset. I need a reset, please. I love you so much, Dad." He intentionally fooled those of us closest to him at the end, likely so we would not take action to stop him. He planned his demise carefully, and his plan worked. His decision, I think from the writings you can see, was pretty rational, as irrational as it might seem. And it was conscious. And no one could convince him that the future that he could not imagine was worth the pain he felt. And now, for those of us he left behind, our task is to make sense of what even Jay could not understand. If we're willing to view the world from Jay's shoes, from his perspective, doesn't Jay deserve our love and respect, and most importantly, our compassion and understanding? It was easy to love Jay. There were so many things to like about him. I could go on and on about that. But I'm going to leave that part for you all to fill in the gaps in a few minutes. I am eternally grateful for my dear partner, Sally. Sally has been my rock again and again through very challenging times over 20 years. She and Jay had a very, very special connection. He loved her with all his heart. Sally will share with you her experience of Jay, and then we'll open the floor for you to share your best memories of Jay, if you like. Thank you.
I'm honored to celebrate the joy I experienced with JaiRam. When I first met Jay in 2001, he was 13, and he was just beginning to discover his passion for music. I remember sitting with him in his room, watching him strum this guitar His fingers caressed the strings as though those strings were extensions of his hands. I thought, he has magical musical fingers. I had expected to see him tentatively fingering the frets before each stroke of a chord. But instead, his natural affinity and passion for music was already flowing through his fingers. For the next 3 years, Jay was devoted to music. He and Joey and Aaron started the Under the Garage Band. For those 3 magical years, Jay was happy, and the Breisch home was rocking. Jay was so happy. We all enjoyed his happiness. We were happy. I mean, laughing, dancing, and hugging. A joyful happiness. In 2004, after his accident, and then after the tsunami, I followed him to Bangkok and slept in his tiny, dark hospital room. I did my best to comfort him each time he was wheeled back into our room after his knee was debrided. He was crying and groaning in pain every day for 7 excruciating days. Jay and I formed a special heart-to-heart, unbreakable bond during that week. Jay's recovery was long and painful. Eventually, his vertebrae were fused and the plates were removed. Eventually, his knee healed and he was able to walk. Jay never completely regained his magic fingers or his unique singing voice, but he never lost his passion for music. As time passed, he must have realized that he could not regrow his magic fingers or find his former voice to sing the lyrics that he wrote with so much love and passion. Jay tried his best to recreate his former self or create his new self. However, the constant, unresolved, chronic physical and emotional pain plagued him and gradually wore him down over the course of 18 years. 18 years. During that time, he became more and more agitated, withdrawn, isolated, and depressed. He developed a kind of cabin fever. His agitation resulted in painful difficulties in his friendships and at times with his family. Sadly, Jay was unable to soothe his pain by fully receiving and accepting the love we all felt for him. Jay was a champion of feeling. He was a sensitive soul. He was a sensitive soul. All you had to do was look into the pools of darkness in his eyes to see how vulnerable he was. He just wanted to be loved. He was perhaps too sensitive for this world. When I learned that he had chosen to drop his body, I remembered how he made gifts for all of us. He loved to carve and create things out of wood. His home became a wood shop. He made a wind chime for me and Stu with the names of each of his family members carved in wood between the metal chimes. He used aluminum tubes from old beach chairs. And somehow he cut to the exact lengths, so the sound was very sweet. How did he know how to do that? Jay made several meaningful gifts for me. A gorgeous wooden sign for my home office with a carving of the man in the maze on each side of my name. He knew the man in the maze was an important symbol to me. We drop into our bodies and make our way through the maze of our lives until we drop our bodies and make our way back to where we began. One day, Jay sent me an email with a picture of the cover of a book I had written. The cover and a review of the book were in Dutch. What a surprise. I had no idea it had been translated into Dutch. Jay had taken the time to do the research, and he was grinning and giggling when I excitedly thanked him and told him it was the best gift ever. One of Jay's friends described him as sweet to the core, and he was so sweet. He was kind and loving. He cared about each of us in a way that made us know we were loved. He was mischievous, loved to tease people in a playful way. He was a poet who composed lyrics that meant something deep about human experiences of joy and sorrow. He loved his dogs, Waldo, Daisy, and Wilbur. They were his safe connection to loving and feeling loved. When I learned that he had chosen to drop his body, I wrote, JaiRam, JaiRam, son of my heart, I will love you forever. Memories of being with you in this life fill my heart. Our soul connection is forever, my dear one. See you soon over the rainbow. Your Sal. Thank you.
So, I didn't get to say goodbye to dear Jay. I'm grateful for the love and the light and the joy you brought into my life, Jay. I'm grateful that you are finally out of pain and at peace. I celebrate you, Jay. You will always be one of the brightest lights of my entire life. So let's raise up a glass and rewrite the past as our time with Jay slowly fades away. Let's send Jay off to his next chapter with love and compassion. Let's all pray he resets to the fresh start that he so longed for and deserved. We know your love is dry, and we pray you find a well. To the light, dear Jay. This last song is the song that Jay wrote about his mother, Karen. And we'll share that with you now. And then after that, there's refreshments and drinks, and probably want to hit that first before the crowds arrive.
I would take the ceiling off the sky and kiss this world goodbye just to see you again. And I would give this life you gave me away just to see your smile again. 'Cause it's you that put me on this earth, and I owe it all to you. Yeah, since my birth, when you look down from the stars, see me shining, yeah, for you. And I'm looking up at the stars tonight. Won't you look back down and show me your light? 'Cause I'm smiling at the stars, And I know that's where you are, and you're my God, and I'm your creation. Your dreams for me are my motivation. Looks like they needed you more. But since then, who's been counting the score? 'Cause I watched them take you down and turn my world of smiles into a frown. And through my adolescent eyes, I watch you part from this world of mine. And as I watched you go, I gained half the life I should have had. Little did I know. And I'm looking up at the stars tonight. Won't you look back down and show me your light? 'Cause I'm smiling at the stars, and I know that's where you are, and you're my God, and I'm your creation. Your dreams for me are my motivation, yeah. Just keep smiling on.
So that concludes this portion of our afternoon. Thank you all for being here and for appreciating all Jay had to offer.
Is it as sad as they say? When you lose someone you can't replace, and something deep within you comes away, a single feeling that you just can't shake. It's as sad as they say. Hold the tears back, building in my head. A wave of fears is rising of regrets. Can't help but feel I didn't do my best to say goodbye to our love. But you'll be there to be all might and guard us through each day and night, and we will remember had remained. We are still remembering through the pain. You just lit up our lives, though I didn't quite realize the time would come so soon to say goodbye.